Oh, you remember when I was parked in this position last year, and or whenever it was, and I showed you the gear that I had in the car. You might remember me saying when I showed you the auxiliary battery behind the passenger seat that I was going to get a battery box for it. Well, I've done that, and there it is, just sitting in there nicely. Now, that's the second thing that I've bought, and now I'll show you what else there is. You can see some wiring there, so that might give you an idea, eh? Third thing I bought was a VSR, voltage sensitive relay. Basically just a fancy battery isolator. This one's from Kick-Ass. Now you might see it's in a weird position and an angle there, because there's nowhere easy to bolt it to the firewall in the Commodore. I wanted to have it somewhere where it was easy to get to. I could have put it over there, but it was going to be awkward to drill the holes and screw it in, and I didn't want to put it down on that panel there under the air cleaner tube, because it would have been close to the exhaust, and I didn't want to have it overheating, of course, so that's why it's there. Now, why it's at that funny angle is I wanted as many points. You can see it's bolted in 4 spots, or screwed down on 4 positions, and I wanted at least 3 positions to be flush with this panel. So those 2 screws there, those mountings there, they're flush with the panel there, and this one is flush with the panel there, but this one here sits up. You can see I'm getting my finger underneath there. Anyway, I've got a hard foam rubber block under there for support for when I screwed that screw in. Basically how these work, just a fancy isolator. When you connect the motor, when you start the motor, it senses the voltage in the starting battery and puts power into the starting battery, and when that reaches 13.2 volts, it then connects the auxiliary battery. Now, you can't see it easily, but right there you've got a green LED. When the 2 batteries are connected, that lights up. Now when the starting battery, when you turn the car off and the starting battery gets down to 12.8 volts, this thing disconnects the 2 batteries, and so anything you've got running on the auxiliary battery is powered, but you can't drain the starting battery. How it's hooked up is connector there. I've got it connected there, and it goes through this 80 amp fuse and runs up to an Anderson plug. That's the original lead for the kit, and then I've plugged another lead into there, ran it across the firewall and brought it down here and it plugs into here. You see vehicle input. Then the other lead, which plugs over here, goes to the auxiliary output. That lead there runs back across the firewall, following that other lead, and it goes down in there. There's a rubber plug. You see behind the brake booster there's a rubber plug there, which, if this was a manual transmission, that is where the clutch mechanism rod or whatever would come through, but seeing this is an automatic, there's just a rubber plug there. And that's the only place I could find to get that wiring from the engine bay into the cabin without drilling another hole in the firewall. So I utilised it, and it makes it all nice and neat too. Alright, this is inside the cab now, and there's the wire after it's come through that rubber plug in the firewall, and it runs down beside the steering column, the steering shaft, but it's about 50 millimeters to that side of the shaft, so it's well out of the way, and I managed to feed it through here and run it across to the other side in front of the console. Then when it comes out this side, I've got it tucked in behind the side skirt here. You can see there's the wire there, because I have that tucked up under there, and it runs down behind this skirt through to the back of the console, and here it comes out from the console there, and it runs up to the Anderson plug at the end of it. Now I want to incorporate a 2-into-1 Anderson plug adapter lead, so I've got that here. See, I've got the other end of that there. Now basically the leads here go back around to this Anderson plug in front of this leg, and that goes back to the VSR. Now this side here, this lead here, this red lead that I'm pointing at, it comes around and it goes down to another 80 amp fuse, and that one goes into the battery. And then of course you've got the negative lead going into the battery as well. But having the 2-into-1 adapter gives me another power point basically. So if I want to, I can say run the camp light from the Anderson plug that is under the bumper bar at the rear of the car, and at the same time I can plug the isolator into this so I can charge the battery for the camera, or charge the laptop if I've got that with me. It gives me a few options, gives me 2 options, so that's good.